Black people all over the world are suffering and dying too soon from illnesses that have plagued our communities for centuries. At Indigenous Health, we are on a mission to build the most valuable and genetically diverse data bank on the planet. Although people with African ancestry make up more than 20% of the global population, our genetic data is less than 3% of the data used in drug discovery. We are frustrated by the status quo and are determined to make a difference by becoming the change we want to see. We know you have lots of questions, and we're excited to answer those questions. You will also receive a free personalized health assessment. Join our community today at biusforall.com. All right. Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Madia Logan. I'm the Chief Member Officer of Indigenous Health. I'm also a co-founder, and I'm so excited to have Lauren Kornegay here in studio with us for our Founders Live session. Today, we're going to be talking about endometriosis. It is National Endometriosis Awareness Month, but it is also Women's History Month, and tomorrow is International Women's Day. So we're really excited about that. Excited to have you on, Lauren, at this time. Thank you for joining us. And so I'm going to bring in the rest of the team members. Yusuf Henriquez, our CEO, Michael Kinyale, our president, and Dr. Bradford Wilson, who is our Chief Scientific Officer. Thank you all for joining us today. And I'll just pass the ball over to Michael to get us started on some company updates. Michael?
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Madia, and good to be back with the team. Welcome to our show, Lauren. Glad to have you here. I think we have two main updates. First update is really about the Genius app that's still under some additional testing just to make sure everything's right, to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And then just a brief reminder that, folks are able to join our community today by just visiting biusforall.com and signing up there. And then the final piece is that we announced last week that Nelson Mandela's grandson, Zandra Mandela, joined our Impact Advisory Board. And so just wanted to, reiterate the fact that we're excited about that and the work we intend to partner with him to accomplish, across the African diaspora. So with that, happy to pass on to either Yusuf or Dr. Wilson with any additional updates before we get into the topic of the hour.
Just welcome everybody. I have a lot to say. I'll probably let Brad take the wheel on this, but looking forward to the discussion and welcome, Lauren. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
Sentiment is similar with me. Definitely would like to welcome Lauren to the live this evening, and we're happy to amplify the work that she and her organization are doing around endometriosis awareness, and it's because it's something that is impacting our African American women out here and women across the diaspora as well. So definitely happy that she could join us this evening.
Great. And just for a quick introduction, Lauren was born in DC and grew up in Oxon Hill. She graduated from Morgan State. None of the Howard people, wait, I was thinking, none of the Howard people are going to say anything.
We it's HBCU love.
HBCU
love.
HBCU love. Yes. That's wonderful.
Said sure. Okay.
Don't get started too
Hey, I'm just
quickly,
gonna keep it real. At least she's not from Hampton. So
oh my goodness.
No worries there, buddy. No worries.
So Lauren will share a bit of her story, but she is leading a nonprofit organization that is helping to advocate and inform and educate folks about endometriosis. So we're going to talk about that a little later, but I just want to say welcome and ask you,
Thank
do you have
you.
any introductory comments before we jump into the conversation?
Not really. Just want to say thank you for having me here. I'm so appreciative of the support that we continue to receive from this organization. It means a lot to us, and I'm glad to be here. And I hope that we have an amazing conversation about endometriosis and that we can allow people to learn some things today.
Great, great. Thank you so much for that. So I want to start with just a couple slides. So, Dr. Wilson, can you talk to us a little bit about just risk factors for women with endometriosis, or what the risk factors are?
So, well, like a lot of other conditions and diseases,
Mhm.
before we had genetics to really give us more detailed information about genetic risk, the one key factor that's pretty much universal in terms of risk for disease is if you have a family history.
Mhm.
So that's a big indicator. So if for endometriosis, like others, if there is someone in your family who's had endometriosis, then that automatically means that women in that family are at increased risk. And there's really a lot that we've been learning about endometriosis in terms of the nature of the disease, and it's kind of multifaceted and complex, and
Mhm.
it has some similarities to both immune related diseases and then some other then similarities to cancer as well. But I will stop there and defer back to our resident expert on this in this live session
Yes.
this evening, Lauren, with regards to some more additional information on that.
Yes, thank you. Along with the risk factors that we talked about, as far as having women who have family members, also having women that may have PCOS, fibroids, things of that nature. Most likely, they may actually have a condition of all of those or one. Something that also may be considered to be a risk factor may be like infertility. If they're struggling to conceive, that may be an indication of endometriosis. Other things may be, abnormal, and we say abnormal very carefully, uterus. So reverted uterus, that was something that was a true indicator for my situation. So those are some of the risk factors, and they may be very extreme, but also very important for you to talk to your doctor about it if you feel that you may be suffering or dealing with something along those lines.
Thank you. So can you talk specifically to how endometriosis affects Black women?
Yes, I can. Um, with the history that we have with J. Marion Sims and all of the procedures that he did in the early 1800s on enslaved Africans, um, moving to 2016, you'll see that there are actually about um, 50% of medical professionals in 2016 at the American Medical Association stated that they believe that Black people have less nerve endings. Um, J. Marion
Mercy.
Sims actually was a president of the American Medical Association at one point. And because of those preconceived notions based off of the research that he did when this was the early 1800s, people still believe that type of thing. And that actually hinders us from getting the diagnosis that we need. So it can be very difficult. A lot of times we also have our own thing, which is what happens in this house stays in this house, or we're strong Black women, so we should be able to deal with certain things. So because of that, it's very difficult to get an accurate diagnosis. And it makes it very difficult on both ends. Us being secretive or us being so strong that when we go to the doctors, we're more prone to say things like, rate your pain. Instead of saying our pain is a 15, where our pain is 3, our pain is 7, so we don't look weak. But that's not, that's not the important factor. The
Right.
important factor is being honest with yourself and sharing. If someone says, how's your pain from a 1 to 10? Tell them 25. You have to be honest with yourself. So because of that, we have a long history of being misdiagnosed, little research, and also just not having the proper education in our community to really get clear understanding of what's going on in our bodies.
Right. Right. Wow. That is a lot. Any thoughts from the rest of the panel members?
It brings me two questions actually.
Uh-huh.
So the point about pain and how Black people are not supposed to feel pain the same way, it's definitely one where it's been bothersome because it manifests in so many places, particularly around childbirth, as one of those moments. Is there any thought in this panel of anything that might be out there that's really being designed to objectively assess pain that someone might be in, right? Because it's in the scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you are? Is there, I don't know if it's a blood test or something where it says in this moment, this is how much pain someone's in. I'm not even sure if it's scientifically feasible, but we're here, so thought I'd ask a bunch of smart people to see if someone knows something.
For me,
I'll jump in.
Thank you.
I'll jump in real quick.
Thank you.
I'll jump in really quickly. I think that the technology exists, right? You may be something non-invasive. You may look at brain activity that will, where pain centers in the brain might light up, in response to stimulus around the issue, or some other type of, objective measure, or maybe some type of pain scale that's more kind of relevant to lived experiences, perhaps that are common to folks. For example, like breaking a bone is something that is not specific to a gender, one gender or the other, where we as males we have no reference for the experience of pain that women feel with a lot of female reproductive issues. So we can't necessarily weigh in. We don't have a reference. We don't have a reference. So something, maybe rating scale, a pain rating scale that has practical examples that maybe people be more familiar with. But pain is subjective. But like you're saying, you're looking for an objective measure that for something that's kind of subjective in nature because of the things like pain tolerance. And though that does, pain tolerance does exist, but as Lauren mentioned, there were studies, polls, surveys conducted of medical students just 5 years, 6 years ago, where that sentiment and that thought and that those beliefs were widely held among medical students in 2016. So it goes to show that Lauren's point, that the repercussions and the ramifications of that work of J. Marion Sims, the kind of precedent he set are still being felt today.
Right. My goodness. Well, I wanted to go. I know that you have some content to share kind of for the pain management tips as well.
Yes, as you see, you'll have information about pain medication or hormone therapy. I do also think it's important to look at other resources, some being possibly, pelvic therapy, doing things like that. Some people do yoga, also paying attention to what you eat. Not necessarily that veganism is a cure for anything, but it is important to pay attention to foods that may be inflammatory, pay attention to foods that may be triggering your endometriosis. For me in particular, and we were talking about this beforehand, I'm allergic to citrus, mango, pineapples.
Mangoes. She's allergic to mangoes.
And unfortunately, that was something that started in 2010.
Can I ask a question about that allergy?
Yes.
Have you tried fruits from tropical areas versus the ones in?
We
Yeah,
talked
'cause
about that.
there's someone
That's a
who
yes.
cannot eat a fruit in America, but in the
That's a yes.
Caribbean,
Yeah.
so just
Oh no, we literally talked about that. So I've had food, fruit in particular, in Thailand, Cuba, Costa Rica, and never had a problem. My belief is pesticides. I have not gone to an allergist. I really just don't feel like getting poked
Sure.
with a whole bunch of stuff. But as far as like just understanding that endometriosis puts me in a different position to have flare-ups, allergies to different things. That may also be the same for dairy. Dairy may cause you to flare up. And I know probiotics is in yogurt. However, for me in particular, that's a red flag. It will trigger my endometriosis to flare up. So it's really important to pay attention to some of the things that you may, be eating. Also, breathing in the chemicals that may be in some of the products. We do have a problem with soy because that's estrogen based. So if you purchase a soy candle, just like you are eating it, you are inhaling it. So you need to be mindful of that too. So some people don't have an allergy with soy or don't have reactions, but it's important to really track your food intake, track the products that you're using to see if there is a difference. Also, you want to just pay attention to the fact that it will take time to figure things out. It's not a, okay, this is what's bothering me. It may take a trial and error. It may take time. For me, I always say 3 months. It allows me to, whatever I ingested, to really see the product, the outcome of it. It's not an overnight thing. Also, you want to look into nutrients in some of the food. So turmeric, kale, celery juice, which is not tasty. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's important to, explore different options that may be beneficial to you. You also want to pay attention to even taking vitamins. Magnesium, vitamin D. A lot of people talk about vitamin D, but they don't understand that will be helpful to your hormones. So we just have to look at different things, zinc, things like that. So just wanted to share there are some different pain management outside of medication. I don't have a problem with medication, but I think it's important for people to understand that there's different things out there that you can explore that may be beneficial outside of medication. And there's a long list of things that you can definitely look into. It's important to join a community, a support group, or something on Facebook, or follow a couple of Facebook groups or Instagrams to really see what other people are doing. Unfortunately, a lot of medical professionals aren't on the same page with us, but that's why we do this work so that we can communicate and build with them. So I hope that information was helpful.
That's great. That's wonderful. And I think it's a perfect segue into you telling us about Endo Black and what you do with them.
Yes. Well, as you know, Endo Black is a nonprofit organization that actually focuses on advocating for African American women and women of color affected by endometriosis. We are a nonprofit that started back in 2015, simply off an Instagram post originally. And in 2019, we decided we wanted to do focus groups and do community engagement. And since then, we have grown. We were incorporated in 2020. We have our nonprofit 501c3. So we're super excited to be in the community and being a part of changing the narrative. We are actually the only Black organization dedicated to endometriosis in the United States, which is something that I'm very, very proud of. We are the organization that focuses on not pushing procedures or things of that nature, but pushing education and awareness. It's very important that in the community we are providing all of the facts, all of the information up front so that people can make a clear decision on what they are getting themselves into. And we're also just making sure that we raise awareness so we can advocate for people that look like us.
Right.
When I was diagnosed with endometriosis in March of 2011, I felt like a Black unicorn. I was alone, and the next step, they weren't clear for me. It was more of, oh, you're diagnosed. It's like, oh, okay, what's next? And we didn't have a clear indication of what the next step was for me. I didn't know that this would be a lifelong disorder. I didn't know that there were certain foods that I should have been paying attention to. I didn't know that the symptoms that I was dealing with would probably increase or decrease or never return at all. So with endometriosis, there's an influx of different things that happen. And with Endo Black, our goal is to really just provide that at your fingertips so that you can feel comfortable, to also make sure that you have a safe atmosphere to really explore some of the things that are going on with your personal health. And also, we just want to be sisterly to each other and really just make sure that we are on the same page as far as what endometriosis is affecting in the community and why it affects us at a different rate than other people.
Mm-hmm. And you have some events coming up.
Yes,
for
yes,
Endo Black. Can you
do.
talk about them a little?
Yes, of course. Thank you for asking.
Of course.
Our first event is with the Capital Will. We are going to be partnered with some other organizations in the area. We're really excited. The Barbados Association of Endometriosis and PCOS, along with Endo Queer, Menstrually Well, and the Pretty Period. We are all in collaboration. The event will be on March the 25th, 2022. At the Capitol Will, which will be at the National Harbor, and that will be at 7 p.m. We are lighting the Capitol Will yellow to raise awareness about endometriosis. So that is one of the events. And then our next event will be our conference, which will be the next day, from the 26th to the 27th. We're really excited. We have our keynote speaker, who is Andrea Ward, who is the great niece of Billie Holiday. So I'm super excited about this opportunity to really just be in Oxon Hill, where I grew up at, and put on an event like this. This will be our first in-person conference, so I'm really excited about that.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. It looks like we got a question from someone watching. I think this will probably be for you to field,
Sure.
and maybe Dr. Wilson, if you want to jump in. What are your thoughts about surgical procedures to remove endometriosis? Surgery creates scar tissue, so is it an oxymoron?
Each case is different, and I know that Dr. Wilson will be able to expand on this a little bit more, but each case is very, very different. So we have to be mindful of that. I do think that for some people, surgical procedures can be very, very helpful if it's a dire need, but you will not know until you have the actual surgery. So what I will say is, in order for you to get a diagnosis of endometriosis, an accurate one, you will have to have surgery to get a clear diagnosis. And there are two surgeries: there's an ablation and excision surgery. Both are completely two different. One is with burning and the other one is with cutting. So it's very important to do your research on that. A lot of people, unfortunately, they are pushed into having surgery from medical professionals. It's costly, and sometimes it may be unnecessary. There are women that have had around 22 surgeries in probably 17 years.
Wow.
So it's really important. I do agree with, just making sure that we're not having surgeries for no apparent reason, to see if there's other means. But sometimes surgery is necessary, and I know that we do need medical professionals. So we have to be careful and mindful of that as well.
I can I definitely agree with Lauren that it's usually going to be a case dependent situation in terms of what treatment options are going to be best for an individual, and those types of things are what you kind of explore with your physician once you make a diagnosis, and that's one of the issues with endometriosis in terms of making that diagnosis, and ways to do that are non-invasive, that can diagnose things accurately and early. So as with endometriosis, with several other conditions, the earlier you identify the issue, the problem, and the sooner you can get started on different options for treatment to try to address it. And also in agreement with Lauren, on a case-by-case basis, depending upon where the endometrioid tissue is located, can make, in some cases, a surgical treatment very effective, but again, it's based on where it's located, and that's kind of lending to the nature of the cancer-like properties of endometriosis, in that it can be found and spread and migrate into different places in the body.
Very interesting. Very
It is.
interesting. Just before we wrap, and if there are any closing comments or if there are any closing questions, we
have a
still have a
closing
couple
question.
minutes left. Yes, please.
So I saw one of the causes listed as birth after 30. And is there, I assume there's a reason for that. And I was kind of curious if you could share what some of those reasons are. Why, if folks are delaying when they have birth, how that impacts or potentially causes endometriosis.
I'm going to be honest and let you know I do not know.
I can speak to that a little bit.
Thank
I can
you.
speak to that.
Dr. Wilson.
Sure. So
Very helpful.
in this case, Michael, is similar to what we find in some cancers in women, and those cancers that are driven by hormones. So women who have not had children and have children later in life, their body over during that course of time has had longer exposure to hormones as opposed to the interruptions in those hormonal cycles that occur when pregnancy takes place. So for women who have delayed pregnancy and childbirth, or who have not had children for whatever reason, may not be voluntarily, their bodies have been had a longer, a more prolonged exposure to hormonal cyclical, hormone cycles, and in some cases, there are some cancers that are hormonally driven. Some types of breast cancer, for example, ovarian cancers, and then some cancer syndromes, similarly, that are hormonally driven. And then this again picks up where endometriosis has some cancer-like properties. So in that, those risks, and that's probably in my educated guess, the reason for the similarity between endometriosis and cancer in that regard.
Got it. No, thank you for clarifying that, because I saw it in the slide and wanted to make sure I put it out there just to better understand the reason why.
Yeah, that's great. Just one more question, Lauren, before we get to closing comments. So please prepare yourselves. But could you tell us a little bit about some of the programming that Endo Black is offering?
Yes, no problem at all. So some of the program that we're offering, it is amazing. We have about 4 target program areas that we focus on. One is changing the narrative. Of course, it's important to make sure that we're changing the notion that we don't feel pain, because one, that's ridiculous. And two, also, we want to make sure that the risk factors are accurate. On a lot of medical websites, unfortunately, they had or may still have white women as a risk factor. So I would say probably around the time of 2019, 2020, people are starting to understand that it is not just a white woman's working disease, which it was listed as for a long time. So one of our target program areas is to focus on changing the narrative. We also have a social impact target, which focuses on period care initiative, where we're making sure that we're providing non-toxic items for period care. So I spoke about, it's important to make sure you're paying attention to what items have chemicals in them. So we make sure that we reach out to organizations such as District Alliance Safe Housing, which is a domestic violence shelter in DC, as well as Pink Illusion Dance Team, which is a teenage dance team in Upper Marlboro, where we donate these items to them. So we would love for people to support that. We do this twice a year, April and August. We also have an opportunity to really look at the health and wellness piece. So that's creating opportunities to have a series called Mocktails and Cocktails, where we talk to each other. Yeah, it's really cute. Yeah, where we talk to each other about things that we normally don't talk about. People don't recognize that endometriosis is a life-altering disorder. It is a full-body disorder that affects relationships, friendships, your endo diet, all of these different things. So because of that, we want to make sure that we are providing discussions on it. So we have mocktails and cocktail series that actually happens 4 times a year. We talk about sex and endometriosis, the endo diet, mental health, as well as relationships and endometriosis, to make sure that everybody that has questions gets the answers that they need. We bring in experts, people that are medical professionals, or people that have this experience with it. And then lastly, we focus on the racial injustice piece, where we actually have our African American Women Workshop, where we talk about it and we offer it to companies who want to learn more about African American women and their situation with endometriosis. We also want to make sure that we provide a conversation on CBD and THC in the African American community. So those are some of the things that we do in the community. And lastly, we have our signature program, which is our ambassador program, which we actually just recently launched. So if you're interested in meeting any of our lovely ambassadors, please, please, please come out to our conference on March the 26th and 27th. It is a great bunch of women who are on their way to becoming endo advocates. So I'm really excited.
That is wonderful. Thank you for
you.
taking the time to be with us today to talk a little more about Endo Black and just about endometriosis awareness. So it is Endometriosis Awareness
Yes, it is.
Month, and you said that you received some proclamations.
Yes, I
Could you
did.
tell
Thank
us
you
about
for
that?
remembering.
Yes.
So we were able to receive proclamation from the mayor of, not the mayor, from the governor, sorry.
Wonderful.
From the governor of Maryland. We also were able to receive proclamations from PG County, Prince George's County. So we're really excited about that. We will be posting, and we recently took a photo shoot with some pictures. So we're excited to share that with everybody. The month is not over. So for those who are interested in getting proclamations in their area, please do so. You can do it in your county and your community to raise awareness. And that will be very, very helpful to the people that are around you that have endometriosis. So definitely look into that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Now, before we go out, I don't think we have any more questions, but any closing comments from any of the other founders?
Just wanted to thank Lauren again for joining us this evening, and we're happy to again amplify the work that she's doing and her organization is doing, Endo Black, to raise awareness and educate women about endometriosis. And that's why I have my yellow shirt on today. In support. Looking out, and then look forward to working with Lauren and Endo Black, and potentially looking at research in this area and trying to identify some biomarkers that can be a little bit more informative a little earlier on, and get a little more definitive diagnosis earlier on, and so that surgery isn't the way that women have to find out that they actually have endometriosis. So definitely wanted to thank Lauren again. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Casey Berna, who actually introduced me to Lauren Kornegay some time ago.
Yes,
and a shout out to got to give a shout out to Med Answers / Fertility Answers, which was the organization I was working with that allowed me to meet Lauren in the first place. So definitely had to shout those folks out who made today possible through the introduction, and that's probably all I got for today.
All right, great. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Wonderfully said. Michael or Youssef, any other, at the end of these, we typically talk about what Indigenous health is doing, right? So we know we have our go live with Lauren. Thank you again for joining us. But what are we doing as a company to address, endometriosis, to address these different illnesses and conditions as a company? How are we helping kind of move the ball forward?
If I could jump in real quick.
Please.
It starts with this live, right? Promoting, helping Lauren raise awareness about endometriosis, and amplifying the work she's doing to educate women about endometriosis. I think this is where we start, but it definitely won't be where we finish. But this is definitely how it all starts. We talk about meeting folks where they are in our community all the time, and really a lot of the times it's a matter of us not knowing. So raising awareness is very important, and that work is critical and it's foundational to everything that we're trying to do as an organization.
Yeah, agreed. Well said. Any other closing comments, Michael or Yusuf?
No, just thank you, Lauren. And
Yeah.
I have people that went to Morgan State, so I didn't mean
Oh, thank you.
So I didn't mean
I
it.
didn't mean anything about the short comment. Just to cycle back to that.
Well, thank you for bringing it back.
I think
HEC
Yusuf
love.
said that he meant it though. So
No,
I don't know.
he
that
means that. He's very serious about Howard.
He is very serious about Howard. That's
It's
wonderful.
okay.
Well, thank you so much.
You're so
You know, we're going to
welcome.
get some information out. We'll have the recap out this week on this session, and we'll also send out some of the announcements about your events.
Thank you so
In
much.
that, so we'll definitely make sure to toll the bell for Endometriosis Awareness Month and to continue, talking about the cause and educating folks on it. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your advocacy. And thank you all for joining us. And we will sign out. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.